One of the most anticipated legal and political decisions in recent memory is at the top of our weekly headlines on this edition of Political Update. Here from our Atlanta News First Alert Desk in Midtown Atlanta, I'm Tim Darnell, and as always, our stream and show this week is produced by Maria Moreau. And here are some of the weekly headlines that we are looking at and continuing to follow. There has been a historic ruling, in the disqualification case regarding Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis in regards to her investigation and subsequent indictment into former President Donald Trump. We're also following what's next in regards to this historic, massive indictment that was issued in August 2023. More locally, and it's happening now at the state capitol, we're monitoring all of the latest legislative developments, one of which is the signing of a new District Attorney Oversight Commission signed by Governor Brian Kemp last week. In an almost unprecedented instance, a state senator was banned from the floor of the State House of Representatives last week for some very controversial comments. And finally, the Georgia General Assembly, happening at the state capitol right now, is entering its final days. But of course, at the top of our stream, we mentioned that Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee issued a ruling early Friday morning of last week stating that Fulton County DA Fani Willis, if she were to remain on her historic prosecution and indictment of the nation's 45th president, that Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade would have to be recused. Later that day, later this past Friday afternoon, Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, who has engaged in a now admitted and acknowledged romantic relationship with DA Fani Willis, did indeed resign as special prosecutor in one of the most highly politicized and publicized judicial inquiries, really, of the last 100 to 150 years. Now, looking at this story is one of our reporters, our statewide general assignment reporter, Abby Kasuris.
In my hands, I have Judge McAfee's order. It's 23 pages. He delivers some harsh criticism. The big takeaway, Willis can stay on the case, but she has to take significant steps to regain trust.
Well, this is hot off the press, so I am just getting through it and trying to digest it.
While some people see Judge McAfee's order as a victory for District Attorney Fani Willis, Attorney Suri Chana Jimenez says there's still an appearance of impropriety.
It's not an absolute disqualification, but they need to jump through some hoops to earn the people's trust.
The judge finding that there was not enough evidence to prove an actual conflict. The order reads, quote, "This finding is by no means an indication that the court condones this tremendous lapse in judgment or the unprofessional manner of the district attorney's testimony during the evidentiary hearing."
The pursuit of justice cannot be breaking laws. And in this case, there were no laws broken, but the appearance of impropriety needs to be cured. Because it matters to all of us.
Jimenez predicts that the DA will ditch Wade and look to hire someone from her office to carry the case. He says that's the best way to keep her timeline for the bigger election interference case against former President Donald Trump and 18 co-defendants.
We are talking about an attack on democracy in the state of Georgia, and an attack on democracy that will have repercussions nationwide and worldwide. This is why there's all these cameras around here, because this matters.
So far, her office has not released a statement. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Kasuris.
That was Abby Kasuris looking at the actual decision that Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee actually rendered, in which he was quite critical, as we heard just a few moments ago, of Willis's testimony that a that just really rocked the nation's political establishment. Willis's conduct and comments during the evidentiary hearing, where she was on the stand testifying about the romantic and financial relationship that former Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade had played in the historic series of indictments of former President Donald Trump and 18 of his Republican allies that was issued in August 2023. Our own Rebecca Schramm looks at what's next in this historic political case that continues to captivate the nation's attention.
There's no question DA Willis wants to turn the spotlight back on Trump and his co-defendants. For weeks now, there's been a major distraction, her relationship with the man she hired to oversee the case.
Our relationship wasn't a secret. It was just private.
With Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade now off the Fulton County Trump RICO case, legal observers fully expect one or more defense attorneys to appeal Friday's ruling by Judge Scott McAfee, which effectively allows District Attorney Fani Willis to remain on the case. But Willis's original plan to try Trump before November has now likely been derailed.
Personally, I don't think that this case will see trial before the election.
Attorney J. Edward Shipp tells Atlanta News First.
It just depends on whether or not they are granted a certificate of immediate review. And if they do get that cert of immediate review, will they be able to get the Court of Appeals to actually take the case up?
We're also watching to see who DA Willis will tap to lead the Trump case, which could involve a re-indictment of some of the charges that Judge McAfee threw out because of technicalities.
I think she'll either promote someone within her existing team or name a new person as quickly as possible just to get the case back on track and the focus back on these defendants.
We'll be watching for court filings, and we'll bring you the new developments as they happen. At the Fulton County Courthouse, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
Who will indeed be the new special prosecutor in the historic indictment of the nation's 45th president? Will we see a new special prosecutor named, and how quickly will that happen? Doug Reardon, our political reporter, has this closer look at the Fani Willis, Nathan Wade controversy.
Hours after Judge Scott McAfee's him or you ultimatum to DA Fani Willis on Friday, Nathan Wade, Willis's former romantic partner, resigned from his post on the historic election indictment. It's still a mystery as to who might replace him, if anyone at all. Among the possibilities, Will Wooten, the attorney who assisted Wade with the grand jury investigation and has been in the courtroom often for hearings. Also, Daisha Young or Donald Wakeford, both members of the DA's anti-corruption unit who have also helped with the case. It'll be a hard job to fill. Before asking Wade, Willis approached attorney and former Georgia Governor Roy Barnes, who gave this pointed answer.
I told DA Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years, and I didn't like it, and I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
We stopped by Wade's office on Monday, but the door was locked and no one answered.
I think this has certainly been a huge distraction for the DA and their case.
Even though Willis remained on the case, the damage may have already been done. Georgia State University law professor Anthony Christ said the biggest win for defendants was the massive delay caused by the weeks-long process of hashing out what to do about Willis and Wade's potential conflict of interest.
One of the things that Donald Trump has always wanted to do in particular is to take our eyes off the merits and the meat of the case. To distract and to delay. And so to that extent, I think it's already been successful. And I think it's really unlikely that this happens before the election.
That was Doug Reardon talking about the aftermath of the decision, the ruling rather, by Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee to request the removal or the recusal of Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade should Fani Willis remain on the case. Now, Wade has recused himself from the investigation, but that has not stopped Donald Trump and the other remaining co-defendants in his historic racketeering indictment to continue their attempts to disqualify DA Fani Willis. Late Monday afternoon, a new court filing was issued or filed in Fulton County Superior Court requesting Judge McAfee to reconsider a request to disqualify DA Fani Willis herself. That court filing came, as I said, late Monday afternoon, and it is doubtless what is quite possibly will be a whole completely new round of court filings in regards to the ongoing indictment of former President Donald Trump here in Georgia on allegations that he and several Republican allies engaged in a criminal-like conspiracy to overturn Georgia's 2020 election. Another development also related to Fulton County DA Fani Willis and other locally elected district attorneys came last Friday when Governor Brian Kemp signed into law another attempt to implement a prosecuting attorney's oversight council or commission. Now, this was a measure that was adopted early in last year's Georgia General Assembly, really aimed at disciplining or perhaps even removing locally elected district attorneys who either don't prosecute the law to whatever extent they are viewed as should having to have prosecuted, or who are not prosecuting serious crimes enough. A lot of widespread political speculation believes that this measure, this oversight commission, is aimed not only at Fulton County DA Fani Willis, but also Deborah Gonzalez, who is the locally elected DA in Athens and Clark County. She is front and center of the continuing prosecution and investigation into the murder of Laken Riley. Laken Riley was a former University of Georgia nursing student whose body was found on the UGA campus almost a month ago, and her case in regards to the individual who has been charged with her crime has become, or with her murder, has become front and center of the nation's immigration debate, something that is a huge topic here in the state of Georgia.
The House Education Committee is getting an earful about Senate Bill 390, which will cut state ties with the American Library Association. State Senator Larry Walker says the group is driving a culture war in the children's section of school and local libraries.
Parents, I don't want them to be reticent to take their kids to the library for fear of what they may be exposed to at an inappropriate age.
The ALA maintains they are a nonpartisan group, librarian after librarian opposing the bill. Harrison Tran, a Savannah High School senior, speaking in opposition to the bill. For his school librarian, Miss Ibsen.
She, in many ways, helped us enhance our love and passion for reading and learning by allowing us to freely pursue our interests. I don't think state government should be able to dictate what the best decisions are for those communities.
The committee also hearing a resolution paired with a sports betting bill. If the majority of Georgians vote to support the legalization of sports betting in November, 80% of the revenue would fund pre-K programs or college scholarships, 15% to address gambling addiction, and the remaining 5% will create a fund for Georgia to recruit and fund major sport events. That meeting was hearing only. No action was taken. Meetings here at the state capitol over the next several days starting at 7 a.m. and going until 7 p.m. If any last-minute amendments are added, those bills still need approval in both chambers before heading to the governor's desk. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Kasoris.
That was Abby Kasoris reporting from the state capitol on some of the other measures that Georgia lawmakers are looking at in their final days of the legislative session. Also on Friday last week, something virtually unprecedented happened on the floor of the State House of Representatives. Earlier on Friday, state senators were debating a measure honoring the late House Speaker, David Ralston. Now, Ralston passed away this past December after resigning his chairman or his speakership of the State House of Representatives, citing health reasons. He passed away in late December. And this past week, senators were debating a bill or a resolution naming a particular building on the campus of the University of North Georgia in honor of the late House Speaker. Now, normally these kind of resolutions are very non-controversial and non-confrontational, but that wasn't the case on Friday, when State Senator Fulton, a Republican from the small Georgia town of Trenton, took to the well of the Senate, denouncing the late House Speaker, who was really almost universally beloved by his fellow lawmakers, as, quote-unquote, one of the most corrupt leaders Georgia has ever seen. Now, the resolution passed overwhelmingly, 53-1. Several senators took to the well after Senator Moore's comments and denounced Moore's comments and, rose in defense of the late House Speaker, David Ralston. But what happened later in the day was, as I said, virtually unprecedented, when Georgia House Speaker John Burns, who is now the latest in a long line of very influential speakers of the Georgia House, banned Moore from the House floor and told House doorkeepers not to admit the senator onto the floor. Possibly one of the first times in Georgia history that a state senator has been prohibited from entering the chamber of the state house, which is just yet another testament to the politically divided nature of Georgia and the United States heading into the 2024 election. These are some of the issues that we're continuing to follow here at the First Alert Desk for Political Update on Atlanta News First, where you can watch and catch all of our editions of Political Update on YouTube and our other streaming platforms. Thanks so much for joining us.